Welcome to the latest printed press, and I'm Aysen Djemal. Welcome to the latest printed press. I'm Aysen Djemal, and today we've got a very program. We're going to be talking about financial advice during COVID-19 times. Recently, obviously, we've been put into category 2, and obviously, yet again, it's uncertain times. But I'm really pleased to have Ben Chai, the Doctor Who of the financial world, with us tonight. Welcome, Ben. How are we?
We're really rushing around today, Aysen. Lots of things just collapsed around me, computers, phones, everything. I don't know if you've had one of those days.
Yeah, I have. I mean, literally, I handed over the questions to you about 20 minutes before the start of this program. It's been one of those very muddled days. But obviously, with your vast experience and being live on television very often, I think you'll be able to rise to the challenge of the day. But yes, it's been quite hectic for the both of us today, really. And I think generally for everybody, it's quite uncertain times. I mean, the first question that I'm going to ask you is, how bad do you think the mess is currently in the country?
Oh, bad. It's messy. It's terribly messy. We're predicted to lose over 1 million jobs just before December, and who knows what's going to happen afterwards with the way things are going. If we're going to have not just this lockdown, they're predicting another lockdown after this. They're thinking we'll get a third and a fourth lockdown. So it's really important. Businesses are learning how to be agile and move with random changes like that could happen overnight, literally.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, I think you're definitely right about businesses becoming more agile and, you know, open to things moving from one day to the next, as is even everybody, really, just our psychology, really. We've got to sort of rethink how life is currently, really, and how, you know, things are very unpredictable. I mean, my second question, you sort of said, are you talking about the stock market? I mean, I said, why is the market ignoring the economy? I mean, what do you think? Do you agree with that? Do you think they are?
I think if it's the stock market always does what it wants to do, depending on who's controlling it and how many hundreds of millions they're using to promote the stock market. And we see this quite often in some of the economic downturns, that it seems like the stock market's going up and then suddenly it'll crash and lots of people will lose money. So it's almost like trying to get people in and then shake the tree kind of scenario.
Yeah. So would you advise for people to invest at this current time in shares?
In shares, I think like any other time, whether it's a good or bad time, always do your own due diligence. We know that Warren Buffett and investors like himself have made the most money in turbulent times like this. It's just making sure you do your own due diligence on the companies that you're going to invest in. And if you've got done your due diligence incorrectly, then you could lose everything. So investigate the companies, see how sound they are. There are a lot of companies that are actually doing well as a result of coronavirus. We can name a few companies very quickly, you know, like, for example, ones that promote masks. They've mushroomed. We see masking vending machines and all these kinds, and they're like just really doing very well. But it's not just them. There's IT companies, because people can't go in, look after their IT. So there's a lot of remote IT companies that are now helping people manage those kind of components. Many people are working from home, which makes their house now very vulnerable to cyber attack. So again, IT companies are doing well in protecting people from a cyber attack on their homes. So just there's a lot of other companies that are doing well, and if you can find those companies, then they're grand people to invest in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, though, I mean, generally, it's the local and the smaller sort of businesses that are probably going to suffer at the moment. I mean, one of my questions was, aren't markets too expensive? Like, you know, when we're shopping now, what we've noticed recently as a family is that all the prices are going up. Do you think that's because of the second spike? Is that what's going to happen to the economy now? Are things going to cost a lot more money? And is that wise for businesses to do that, to raise their prices?
It's difficult. It really is. So, for example, we know that in our country, they've doubled the number of like buses or trains because they're only allowing limited people on the buses and trains. So we're increasing jobs from that perspective, but it's costing the suppliers more money to pay extra maintenance on the extra transport, extra salaries, and just general insurance. All these kinds of aspects are going up. So we are going to experience an increase in goods, which you've already seen. You know, that it just has to happen. And where is the government going to get the money from when they're paying for people to be on furlough and bounce back loans and many other grants that they're trying to use to help businesses? But it has to come from somewhere. You know, I know it's crazy that today we can just print money, but then that causes another problem. So we're seeing, you know, it's funny. We are in the UK suffering, but not as bad as other countries where I know people who have been promised furlough amounts, they've not had it since lockdown, and they are literally losing their homes. Some of them, you know, I've had friends who've committed suicide now because of some of the challenges, and just being locked down that on your own. There's many people, even though they've got a lot of people they can have Zoom calls with, they're just feeling very lonely for that human touch.
Definitely. I do think we've got to be aware of that, of how it's affecting people's psychology. I think more so this time around than last time.
Yeah.
I think the first time around we were quite resilient, you know, and hopeful that we were going to come out of it. The fact that it's now repeating, and like you said, more likely that it will happen third time and the fourth time, we do have to build a resilience and help ourselves mentally and communicate with people and make sure that we don't dip. And obviously, if we are starting to lose financially, then that, of course, will have a very big knock-on effect, not only to our psychology, but our well-being and how we manage to live. I mean, I've got some questions coming in. We've got Zainab saying EA in love, which means, you know, good broadcasting. But Abby Hussein has also said food retailing, best time to start a pension. Most shares are rock bottom. And what do you think about that? Do you agree? Is it the best time to start a pension?
Yeah, so as I said before, Warren Buffett and investors like them find that the stock market is a great place to invest in. You just have to be careful. Like, for example, my pension has just lost 50 grand. Okay, so I have a pension. It's part of the stock market. It's lost a lot of money. And I'm very annoyed with my financial advice at the moment because they said that my real estate investments had done very well compared to their stock market over the 20, 30 years that I've had a pension. So yes and no. Again, do your own due diligence. If you've got a self-styled pension where you're not being fully managed, and when it's fully managed, there's all sorts of commissions that they're taking from your pension. So it is possible if you've got good advisors around you to actually do very well as a result of the stock market, but not perhaps going through the traditional routes.
Yeah, definitely. Gunil has talked about the printing of the money and said that will cause inflation, and will businesses be able to pay the bounce back loans?
Yeah, you know, this is another great question. I know several businesses have already spent their bounce back loans, and you know, this is something to do with actually mindset of money. We know that 80-90%, forget the coronavirus problem, but they, over 2, 5, 10 years, they go out of business because they don't know how to manage their money. And often when I'm advising businesses, it is actually to divide your money and have some finance available for times like this. You know, have almost a year's buffer for some kind of crisis. and we've never seen a crisis like this. And so over time, people just get very complacent. It's a bit like insurance, having a backup plan.
So, I mean, what's your advice? I mean, those small businesses that don't have that sort of cash to be able to put away, are you advising them that if they have been given a loan to put a bit of that away and not spend it? Is that your advice?
Some of that, yes. Keep a little bit back instead of spending everything, and have a reserve. We talk about splitting pots of money. I know people who've actually had certain grants, and instead of spending it, they've gone and invested it, and when they've learned that left and had to pay the grants back, they've actually made all their money back. So it's just, there's lots of businesses that are small businesses are doing very well as a result of the impact of the coronavirus. So very quickly, there's a company that, here's one industry that's been totally decimated, the theatre business. Right, totally decimated over $1 billion.
Yes.
Right. So so it's not just the actors, actresses, singers, orchestra, conductors, all those people, but also people who create the background scenery. So one company just had storage of this customized scenery, and a big warehouse with 7 trucks, pivoted. And one of the aspects of coronavirus is people working from home. So the kids get on their nerves because they can only work from the bedroom. So they're converting their garages into little offices. And this company has now helped them produce very iconic, using their scenery and their knowledge, offices. Not only are they doing that, they created a big, massive storage warehouse. So that's one. There's a guy who does, like, the other industry that's been totally decimated is our tourism industry. And so one of the guys, he does like treasure hunts around London. That's one of his business, and he employs different people. Now he's put this online, and he's got little different event cameras, so you can spot different people as part of the team and sharing information. And they do the treasure hunt on map, but also his platform is so fantastic. Companies are now wanting him to host their events, so that instead of like this screen, you'll see at the bottom different rooms, and they can click on the rooms, they can go in the rooms to have private conversations, or they can go back into the main room where the main speakers are. And in those little rooms, they've got little, televisions, so that they can see what's going on in the main room, but you can still have private chats or little conference rooms. Isn't that amazing? So these are just a couple. I can share a lot more. Restaurants have been decimated, right? You're having to close at 10. And like in London, we know there's a lot of people who come after theatre to have drinks and eat. Yeah. So Just Eats and Uber Eats and people like that, their businesses have grown, but they've helped these restaurants say, okay, we can't give you food now, but sign up here, right? And these guys will sort out all the delivery and help with the restaurant finances, without them having to find extra money to pay for delivery services and equipment for so there's lots of little things that companies, if they can pivot that quickly, and that's where small businesses have an advantage.
Yeah.
Large organizations like John Lewis don't have that advantage because they're too big. So what John Lewis has done, I don't know if you've seen this recently, they said, look, people are being locked down, so we're going to need more housing, and we're going to need to create a bit extra housing. So they've now joined the housing market, and they've again, this is an example of a business that has done a pivot to think, instead of waiting around arguing with people about, hey, masks are bad or masks are good. Yeah. Is the world trying to lock us down so that they can change the order? They're thinking, okay, whatever is going on, we still have to sort ourselves out. What implies we need to think how we can get out of this, how we can pivot and help our employees to stay employed, and customers to get the quality of service that they deserve.
That's right, definitely. I mean, definitely we have to try and think as positively as we can, although it is very difficult times. We've got more questions coming in. Does Ben think Sunax help packages are just knee-jerk reactions?
Oh, that's really unfair. That's an unfair question. The problem is nobody really knows. Yeah, and the problem with the challenge our government has is that they don't really understand what's going on. Plus, they're being sued by MPs, by businesses, by the EU. Like they're just, and they're trying to support people. They're everything about them is currently knee jerk. I'm really sorry to say this. I've currently just setting up a business that removes coronavirus and viruses and bacteria from the air, and we're trying to think of a layered strategy which involves not just our units, but also special sprays, masks, soap, gel, everything to try and think, oh, okay, how can we get the theatre industry back online? How can we help with the pubs, because these units remove the viruses from the air so that people can sit in the pubs and have a nice drink and do the stuff that people like doing, which is socializing.
Wow, that sounds very interesting, actually. But in what you're currently involved in, I mean, that would really resolve a huge problem if we could do that. So best of luck with that. I mean, that just sounds awesome. I mean, like I had recently, I had some scientists on the show as well, and they were talking about the vaccine and how they're trying to speed it up. I mean, I think everybody worldwide is trying their best, but like you said, I think we can't blame the government for having a knee-jerk reaction, because that is the only reaction we can have at the moment currently. I do believe I'm of the same thought process as yourself, Ben, with that, because there is no other way. From day to day, things are very unpredictable. Abby Hussein, taking a few more questions from the audience before we go back to our planned questions, is saying hospitality and performing arts. My son studied drama and theatre studies, 2 small jobs last 6 months. I mean, yes, it's dire, isn't it, for the arts at the moment? We are a diminishing.
Well, yes and no. You remember we talked about pivoting, right? So some of the actors are very, very clever. Instead of, again, sitting around saying, "Oh, I can't get any work," blah 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 blah. And by the way, this is a tough industry anyway, as you know. It doesn't matter. I'm really sorry. Coronavirus or no coronavirus, having done a little bit of acting work myself, it's hard to get jobs anyway. It's very competitive. But here's some of the great things some of the people starting out in that world are doing. They're creating their own productions, right? They've teamed up, and this is a really, really important aspect of being in the coronavirus. They've teamed up with people who are great with tech, who are also in the same situation, and they're creating their own little films where you may play 3 or 4 actors or actresses, or have other people in your groups to help be different actors. They're also teaming up with script writers. Again, script writers, very challenging to get work. But some of these script writers, they're really, really good. And the more of these productions you make, the better you will get. And you create your own showreel on YouTube that one day, perhaps your son and other people in this industry, they can create their own now showreels to show organizations which have deep pockets, like the Netflixes of the world, like the Disneys of the world, who will now see what you've created on your own with a piddly little camera, but it looks good. And who knows, if you learn about social media and how to make things go viral, and it goes viral, you're going to be noticed. A bit like the guys who used to do the after shows on the X Factor, and they used to just do it for fun. It was free. And then they got noticed, and Simon Cowell or the teams that produce these shows employed them to do after-show productions and paid them money.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I was going to say from my own experience, we were at the studio. We would always interview people in person at the studio, and obviously once we were in lockdown, we rethought how we were going to present shows, and actually going online and doing it via social media has meant that we've connected with people worldwide, and actually our connections have widened, to be honest with you, and our connections have become a lot better. Our relationships have become more rooted. We're more in touch with our community. So yes, there are good things that have come out of COVID-19, but generally, obviously, it's hard times. And like you said, you've got to rethink, maybe reskill. I know there's been a lot of criticism out there of the government advertising these ideas, especially when it comes to the arts. And there's been lots of things going around in social media. But I do like the fact that you're taking this positively, Ben. And it is true, in the arts, it's always been difficult for us. So if we've been able to survive normal times, one hopes that we will survive these times. And like you said, I think there is always a need for the arts. There's always a need for entertainment. We may not be able to go and see a live show on stage, but like you said, we can connect via social media and, you know, like you said, have these little rooms and, you know, and rethink things and be able to connect in different ways. But I think what's very important is for us to keep the positivity up. I think nobody can succeed in business if they haven't got the right mindset. And you're very good at talking about that in a lot of your videos with your TED Talk and everything about having the right mindset.
Yes, the TED Talk on social magnetism will help people who are just starting out in acting or business themselves, because it shows them how to add value to other people so that they can create amazing little productions. Just and a little aside, my son is not an actor, but he produced an amazing little short film, just him in it, but he had somebody do the videoing from afar, you know, coronavirus style.
Yes.
So he played the cowboy and he played the person shooting, and he just had them filmed, you know, kind of separately, but in the same area. So there's lots of great things that if we are actors or you know, then we should get this. Same with people in the song and dance world. As you know, I'm not a professional performer. I'm an amateur performer in dance. But many of the dance schools have been shut down, and a lot of the dance teachers have now produced online courses where you can work with them online. So they'll show you how to move, or you can you know, subscribe to one of their courses, and that's their way of pivoting. It doesn't initially bring as much revenue as having 100 people in a room, but over time, again, it will just build up, and they just have to learn new skills or team up if they can't learn those new skills in technology and social media. And this is teaming up and collaborating.
Is it? I mean, we spoke generally about stocks and shares and investing, but do you think generally, is it a good time to invest, or is it a terrible time to invest in anything?
Yeah. So normally, I've always made the most money in terms of investing in terrible times like this. Okay. Right? We've had we've spoken about the stock market already, but like properties is a big thing in the UK. We've had a number of properties being devalued by about 10-15%. These are properties we're going to refinance. So again, as the economy gets worse, there's going to be some great opportunities to buy property. You just need to be able to have whatever rental pay for the mortgage plus all the other costs like you know, boiler and insurances and so on, and be able to last that time of this time that we're going through. And we don't know how long it's going to last for. It could last for a year, 2 years. You know, it's easy for people to say, okay, we've got a vaccine ready, but this particular strain keeps evolving, so we don't even know if the vaccine is going to be relevant to the mutated version, and we don't know what else is going to come afterwards, because we've already had 4 or 5 different viruses in the past, and people are now Googling epidemics and seeing what's happened during those epidemics and those lockdowns. So we see that you can keep seeing more and more viruses. It's just part of life. I'm really sorry to say this.
I do think so. I think we've come into a time now where this will continue for quite a long time, and we just need to adapt to it. And you know, before when someone would say wear a mask, it would just be at Halloween or when you were doing fancy dress or something. But now it's become a normal everyday thing, and we must wear our masks, and we must socially distance. We must wear gloves where necessary. We must sanitize our hands and wash them and be careful at the end of the day. And yes, I know it's against human nature. We like to, you know, connect with people. We like to touch our loved ones and hug them and kiss them. But unfortunately, at the moment, so that our loved ones are safe, we do need to be socially distant, and we just have to adapt to that. And like you said, still connect with people, but in different ways, rethinking how we do that. How about Brexit? How will the crisis affect Brexit, do we think? Big, huge question.
Oh my goodness. I mean, like I said before, the government is just beset with challenges. So not just coronavirus, but Brexit. And it's, if there was no coronavirus, yes, Brexit is a big, big problem. Now that we've got a virus and we don't know how long it's going to go on for, every country is being affected, right? I was saying to somebody else in another interview, if we could get all our top business people together, and instead of the government saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that, just have these top business people together and help come up with a plan to deal with our finances. There are great aspects of what's happening, looking at it from a positive perspective, in terms of the government now creating relationships with countries outside of the European Union to supply and deliver services. But obviously the European Union is a massive, massive customer for the UK. And we need to create some thought processes with our business guys. And instead of arguing, look, it's all the problem of 51% people because what they voted. We're here now and we need to do something about it. I don't know if that makes sense. It
does make sense. Yeah, I think you're just saying you've got to make the best of the situation and get the experts together, people who've got some sort of money together to try and support others. At the end of the day, this is a worldwide issue, and it's not just specific to our country. So it's very easy to criticise the government and say, oh, they're doing this or they're doing that. But I think you're right. At some point, you have to accept the reality and try and make the best of it. It's very confusing, though. It's very confusing times. I think that's what gets, from my perspective, I'm a school teacher. I have to go into school. I have to mix with hundreds and hundreds of children on a daily basis. Yet I'm told I can't mix with my family and my friends now. I have to be in a group of 6, and I can't socially go out with a different household. This now affects me affects my psychology. And I think because we've already had this lockdown, and because it is very confusing, you have to go out and work. So you have to do that part of your life, but you can't socialise. It's trying to find that balance. But I think your ideas, saying connect to people in a different way, don't think about it how it used to be. Think about it as in how it's going to be from now on. I think, like you said, we've got to rethink our psychology and see the positive in the situation rather than the negative. I think we've been sort of focusing on the negative a little bit too much. At the end of the day, we can't change this. It is a worldwide thing, isn't it, really, Ben? I mean, I don't know what you'd like to add to that point.
I mean, there are petitions, and you're absolutely right about the confusing challenges that our government keeps saying we're masked, don't wear masks, lockdown 1, lockdown 2, lockdown 3. Does that mean if you go from lockdown 3 to lockdown 1, are you in lockdown 1? Like, it's just really crazy the way they're thinking about this. And we do have an issue with the government losing 3 billion, as you're probably aware, somehow to their mates or whatever.
Yes.
So we do have some
a whole different program, but yes,
a whole different program. You're absolutely right. So I don't blame people for being negative or upset. Remember, we do have choice, so we can leave the country. We can go live somewhere else, another country. It's not a nice choice, because many of us, myself included, love living here. It's why I'm still here, right? But that's a choice. We can choose to hug our loved ones, and if they've made the choice to hug us and say, okay, if I get it, that this is my choice, this is the coronavirus. We do have those kinds of choices. We have a choice to sing and play nice music. I think this is one of the problems with the pubs having to tone down the music and people not allowed to sing anymore. So it's like, where's the happiness now? Where is the love?
We do have a choice. You're right. We think that we don't have a choice, but we do. It's just what choice we make.
Yeah, I just want, I'd love to see people starting to sing again in their bathrooms. I've won a gold medal for singing in my bathroom. I'm the best singer there, and or in their cars. It'd be lovely to see all that stuff going. One interesting aspect is that I think that people have become very empathetic, right? And so there's around the world a massive depression, a massive feeling of fear and anger at governments and the global. If we can kind of disassociate from picking up that feeling, and many of us are picking up other people's feelings as a result, and try and create our own little happy bubble. I don't want to be deluded, so let's be aware of what's going on, but let's think of things that make us happy and play our happy songs again and do our tickle each other again, in our 6 or 3 or 5 or 30 or whatever it is that the government comes up with. Number of people really try and find things to be hopeful about. I think there's one thing that will keep us going through is hope. That's
true. And count our blessings. At the end of the day, we're living and breathing, I guess. So, that's positive, isn't it? Well, how will the world look like post-COVID? How are we positioned for that, do you think? We're in our last 5 minutes, Ben, by the way, just to whiz by the programme.
I think that the world will totally change. We'll have an expansion in delivery services, for example. That's a growing industry. We won't understand offices that the way we used to, like having big open area office blocks and so on. Many more people will be working from home. I think there will actually be a lot more people having their own businesses, and a lot more people taking financial education and health education, because our mental health is now becoming a big impact and priority. And also learning to
traumatize really.
Everyone.
A lot of post-trauma, aren't we, as well, I think.
You're right. Everyone has a little bit of that. And also learning to think critically, rather than just what the mass media is talking about, learning to see through and think, okay, I see what's going on here. I see what the government's doing. I see what blah, 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 blah. Now, I understand that's happening, but I still need to make sure my family, my friends, myself are safe and can do well and can carry on adding our value to society.
Yeah, so you take what you should from it, really, and interpret it the way that is suited to you as well. Remembering to stay safe, of course.
Yeah.
And protecting our loved ones. Fatima Mehmet has written a comment. She's put, good to see you back on the show, Ben. Very informative. I think that's a nice positive comment to end with. We've missed you. You need to come back. But I wasn't able to do it a few weeks ago. I cancelled, but I think we need to get you on regularly, because this hasn't been anywhere near enough. We've literally touched on the surface of things that we could pick your brains about, to be honest with you, Ben. So I really need to have you back in the next couple of weeks again to discuss these things a little bit further. And no doubt by then we'll be into more changes. And like you said, it's very confusing, isn't it? We're in category 2. What happens when you travel to category 1? Are you in category 1 or are you in category 2? See, lots of people have been talking about that recently with me. We're in category 2. We can't mix socially in a restaurant. But what if we travel to category 1? What happens there? But I think what you said is a great point. You take your own risk. You decide whether you want to hug your loved one that you live with or not.
As long as
knowing the risks.
As long as both sides have made the same choice.
Yes.
Rather than me enforcing my risk on you.
Yes, of course. And I think in public, we need to be responsible. We need to be wearing our masks.
Absolutely.
We need to be wearing our gloves. We need to be sanitizing. We need to be socially distancing. I think in public, this is what you're talking about, households living within each other, I think. And that, is very confusing, isn't it? Sometimes I think we do need a bit of love. But like you said, we can rethink it. and find different ways. It's been really great speaking to you. I mean, hope for the businesses out there. I mean, from what you've said, I sort of started the program thinking all small businesses are the ones that are going to suffer the most. But actually, you've made me rethink that a little bit tonight. The fact that actually small businesses have the advantage of reinventing themselves, whereas big businesses are quite stuck. So I quite like that idea, and I think that's very hopeful to my friends out there that are watching that are part of small businesses, and the fact that they can recreate things. Any last words before we sign off our show?
Yeah, yes, to some of the people who don't believe in wearing masks, it's not a case of whether you do or don't. And I understand you may have some reasons why you can't wear masks, but just do it out of respect for your fellow people, because with you not wearing a mask, it stresses them out. Whether coronavirus is real or not, that's not our discussion here. It's just being respectful to other people.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Thank you, Ben, for being on my program. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you to our audiences for all their questions and tuning in. That's it from us, from the Lated Printed Press. Have a very good evening from Eurogench TV. Goodbye.
Kalitenin, güvenin, hızlı teslimatın adresi Ancon Furniture. Ancon Furniture ailesi olarak yeniliklerle hizmete devam etmekteyiz. Dünyada bir ilk ürünlerimizden full otomatik açılır kapanır sandıklı bazamız. Bir dokunuşla açılan, bir dokunuşla kapanabilen, bayanlarımıza, yaşlılarımıza kolaylık sağlayabilen sandıklı bazamız mağazamızda hizmetinize sunulmuştur. Yıl sonuna kadar full ortopedik baza seti alan her müşterimize 2 adet full ortopedik Memory Visco yastık hediyemizdir. En iyisini biz yapana kadar daha iyisi yok. Ancon Furniture.